Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me and see me? Let me know. Ooh, hold up, y'all. Hold up. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Like my voice cut right then and there. Welcome. I'm not late, only by like 2 minutes. Only by like 2 minutes. How's everybody doing, guys? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I am. So let me tell you what happened, y'all. Let me tell you what happened. I was I don't know if you guys know this, but the Sundance film, Selena and Los Dinos, is out. So I was watching some of it and then it went blank. It was like a $35 ticket. So for those that are curious and interested, I don't know if they're still on sale, but Sundance essentially there's a director that did I don't know, like a movie on Selena and interviewed the family, the Quintanilla family. So I was watching it and then it just went blank. So I didn't get to finish like half of it. And I only got like 5 hours to review it. So I went to contact Sundance in their technology department or whatever. And hopefully I'll get to see it because I did spend money on it and I wanted to talk about it on this channel. We live now. Let me let the people know I have no thumbnail. Thank you everybody for being here. Oh my goodness, we got 80 people in the house. I hope that those are notifications that went out. So I was watching, like I said, I'm halfway with the Sundance Selena and Los Dinos, and it was I definitely got to see you get to see footage that you've never seen of Selena Quintanilla before, interviews, you get the like it's more intimate. And you get to see like family interviews. I saw a different side of her dad, I think I've never really seen before. You get to understand a little bit of their story, Selena and Los Dinos. So I was very excited and then it went blank. So that's where I'm at. I'm right, Shauna. And so I message Sundance. And so hopefully Sundance will get this fixed. But right now, as we speak, there's a technical issue happening. And hopefully, if they don't fix it, at least let me know what I can do to watch the rest of it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shout out to everybody. Notifications just hit your phone. Look at that. Shout out to everybody. So last night we had some news that broke of like a really tragic situation where a Army Black Hawk helicopter and a United Airlines jet collided. And I guess this was like maybe shortly after I had already done my live yesterday. So there was a lot happening. And I'm wondering, I guess everybody that was on board died so far, as far as what we know news. There have been a lot of live updates, no survivors after the plane crash near Washington. So an American Airlines jet carrying 64 people plunged into the river after colliding in midair with an Army helicopter on Wednesday night. Recovery team had pulled more than 2 dozen bodies from the icy waters. So officials believe that there are no survivors, and this was a mid-air collision. Now, um, how does that happen? It's all over the UK, really? Well, I guess that's my question. Like, this is a army helicopter, right? Like it's a Black Hawk. Everything that I've heard. And then you have your United Airlines jet. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, aren't these, especially the army one, it's in it equipped to kind of like not, be able to fly and not collide with like what happened exactly? Was there a miscommunication? Where was air control? I have a lot of questions too about this. And I think that that's kind of where we're at is we have a lot of questions. I saw someone say somewhere else for rescue, but I don't know who. Rabbit, that is not the first time for that location. They had plenty of close calls on that airport in the most restricted airspace. You said that the air runway is too short. Technical issues? You said setup? Yo, I mean, I just have a lot of questions about how all of this went down. And of course, give me 1 second. We're gonna go right to the coverage.
Give the approval to land and talking to the Black Hawk, and you could hear in his voice the fear. And then when it happened, you heard them. They normally don't ever break. They're very, what's the word? They calm. And last night you could tell in their voice that it was pretty devastating. And that's when we turned on the news, we realized exactly how awful it was. But it's kind of cool to have a voice to, have a face to the voice. And we recognize some of them. In particular, there was a woman controller who we had met on the tour. Wonderful person. And you could hear in her voice.
Hold up.
She never usually breaks. And she was having a rough time. So it was really devastating.
Michelle, thank you for sharing your experience and your perspective with us. So that is a lot of what we're hearing out here from some folks. Typically, this is a spot where people really enjoy coming to watch the planes take off and land. But today, a very different mood, very somber as they absorb this news out here, and more to come as we learn more about the recovery efforts in the hours to come.
Okay.
Guys, it's so true, Lily. And even though we've been reporting this since it happened.
Now, hold up. I got just tagged into something. At least 4 survivors have pulled from a river after a plane carrying 64 passengers crashed. So, were there survivors or not? Because that's not what the media is reporting. Okay, so the Daily Mail falsely reported 4 people alive was pulled from the wreckage, and then this morning they said no survivors. And of course, the administration is already targeting the FAA and saying that it was DEI hires. Can you really? So where did the Daily Mail get the survivors part? You were in the military and you're saying that there's no. It ain't the river? Thank you, Gina. 64 souls on the American airline and 3 military. Y'all let me know what you guys think, because this is just so off. Like, how do we go from 4 to 0? No, it's not. Where do they get the information? Could it be police scanners? The Black Hawk is at fault whether it was a communication issue or not. You're saying it's a cover-up? You said I heard the watchtowers changed the airstrip for the American Airlines to a different one almost before landing. Maybe it's a thing of like just reporting without having all the facts. Right, Kate. Mike would be an awesome person to talk to about this. But I'm sure I don't want to bother him. I'm sure that he probably's got a lot on his plate right now. Over the scanner last night, they said they had 4 on the airport side, but I think they were talking about bodies, and the news reported as survivors. Misreporting? Did the Daily Mail come back and say, hey, this was a mistake, misreporting? That's what I want to know. Like,
been for hours on end, and we see the.
Hold up. Let me see.
Or something to denote a
We're
certain location
more information
as the work, the first responders' work continues. That is something that is new and that is noteworthy. So we're keeping an eye on that as well. As we take you to the right, I can tell you that within the last couple of minutes, there were, I'd say.
Let's go ahead and watch what President Trump has to say about this. Okay. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments.
So he came out with a directive to white.
It's live.
And we want the people that are competent. But now we mourn and we pray, and would like to ask all Americans to join me in a moment of silence as we ask God to watch over those who have lost their lives and bring comfort to the loved ones. And I just want to say God bless everyone in this room. This has been a terrible, very short period of time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So we all saw the same thing. We've seen it many times. I've had the honor of hearing tapes. Tapes are scary, very scary tapes. You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else. They came in. It's probably the same track as they've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, you had a helicopter that was at the same height, obviously when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, "Do you see?" He was talking about, "Do you see him?" But there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also he said, "Follow him in." And then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place. Well, you follow him in. That means like everything's fine. Follow him in. You had a pilot problem from the standpoint of the helicopter. I mean, because it was visual. It was a very clear night. It was cold, but clear, and clear as you could be. The American Airlines plane had lights blazing. They had all their landing lights on. I could see it from the Kennedy Center tape. We had a tape up on the Kennedy Center. That seems to be the primary thus far. I'm sure we'll see other tapes because it's such an area where there are a lot of cameras looking up into the air, into space. So we'll probably see many other shots of it before too much time goes by. But we had a situation where you had a helicopter that had the ability to stop. I have helicopters. You can stop a helicopter very quickly. It had the ability to go up or down. It had the ability to turn. And the turn it made was not the correct turn, obviously. Okay. And it did somewhat the opposite of what it was told. We don't know that would have been the difference because the timing was so tight. It was so little. There was so little time to think. But what you did have is you had vision. The helicopter had vision of the plane because you had vision of it all the way, perfect vision of it all the way from at Kennedy Center where the tape was taken. And for some reason, there weren't adjustments made. Again, you could have slowed down the helicopter substantially. You could have stopped the helicopter. You could have gone up. You could have gone down. You could have gone straight up, straight down. You could have turned. You could have done a million different maneuvers. For some reason, it just kept going.
I don't know
and
what
then
he's
made
saying.
A slight turn at the very end, and by that time it was too late. They shouldn't have been at the same height because if it was at the same height, you could have gone under it or over it, and nobody realized, or they didn't say that it's at the same height. At the same height, it still wouldn't have been great, but you would have missed it by quite a bit. Could have been 1,000 feet higher. It could have been 200 feet lower, but it was exactly at the same height, and somebody should have been able to point that out. So all of this is going to be studied, but it just seems to me from a couple of words that I like to use, the words common sense.
What?
Some really bad things happened.
I can't.
And some things happened that shouldn't have happened. So you had a helicopter going in an identical direction. You had a helicopter that was at the exact same height as somebody going in essentially the opposite direction. You had a plane that was following a track, which is a track that every other plane followed. And I don't imagine, I know I've heard today that they might have been following the preceding plane, which was pretty close, but not that close, the preceding plane. But you wouldn't have even been able to see that because of the direction that the helicopter was coming in at. So you had a confluence of bad decisions that were made. And you have people that lost their lives, violently lost their lives. We're going to take a few questions. I'd like to ask our new Secretary of Transportation to say a few words. Sean Duffy, great gentleman, just started.
Why isn't the Secretary of Aviation or whatever why aren't they talking? Why is he talking? Like, don't get me wrong. I get it. Everybody want to hear the president, whatever. but he's not the expert in this. Okay, he just isn't. I put Joe Biden in there to talk at this point. I don't know what to make of y'all. What is this? What I feel like I'm losing it here.
That was Biden to a standard I read it to you. That was from one of your papers. One of the people in this room actually wrote that. And then I changed it back a few days ago. And unfortunately, that was, we'll see. We don't know that necessarily it's even the controller's fault. But one thing we do know, there was a lot of vision, and people should have been able to see that, at what point do you stop? At what point do you say, wow, that plane's getting a little bit close? So this is a tragedy that should not have happened. Please, sir.
Oh my God, no shit. Yes, please sit down and put the experts
Thank you,
in
Mr.
here.
President. And I would just note the president's leadership has been remarkable during this crisis. We've had a whole of government response, local, state, federal. And when you see that kind of cooperation, it begins with the leadership in this body. So thank you for that, Mr. President.
Okay.
You make
All
our
right,
jobs a lot
brown
easier.
nose. Let's go.
You made an important point that when we deal with safety, we can only accept the best and the brightest in positions of safety that impact the lives of our loved ones, our family members. And I think you make a really important point on that, Mr. President. That is the motto of your presidency, the best and the brightest, the most intelligent coming into these spaces.
Listen, nobody's trying to make this political. Let me be very clear. I don't think anybody wants to, but why are they making this political when this is a tragedy that just happened? Can we get to what the fuck happened? Like, get it together and stop brown nosing each other. Okay, let's go.
What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. And when Americans take off in airplanes, they should expect to land at their destination. That didn't happen yesterday.
No shit.
That's unacceptable. And so we will not accept excuses. We will not accept passing the buck. We are going to take responsibility at the Department of Transportation and the FAA to make sure we have the reforms that have been dictated by President Trump in place to make sure that these mistakes do not happen again. And again, I want to thank you for your leadership, Mr. President. And I appreciate the confidence you placed in me. Thank you.
You just got hired by him. Is that what it is? Lord have mercy. I cannot.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Again, I want to echo what the Transportation Secretary said about your leadership. From the moment we found out about this, we were in contact with the White House trying to determine exactly what happened. I would echo it as well. No excuses. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We first and foremost from the Defense Department want to pass our condolences to the 64 souls and their families that were affected by this. Never should happen. And certainly the three service members, the three soldiers, a young captain, staff sergeant, and CW2, Chief Warrant Officer, on a routine annual retraining of night flights on a standard corridor for a continuity of government mission. The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. I think the president is right. There was some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating at the DOD and Army level. Army CID is on the ground investigating. Top tier aviation assets inside the DOD are investigating, sir, to get to the bottom of it so that it does not happen again, because it's absolutely unacceptable. But I want to echo what the Transportation Secretary and you, Mr. President, said, because it pertains to the DOD as well. We will have the best and brightest in every position possible.
Okay.
As you said in your inaugural, it is colorblind and merit-based. The best leaders possible, whether it's flying Black Hawks and flying airplanes, leading platoons, or in government. The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest, whether it's in our air traffic control, or whether it's in our generals, or whether it's throughout government. So thank you for your leadership and courage on that, sir, and we'll stand by you on it. Thank you.
Okay, hold up. Time out. Can you explain to me how the hell that's not passing the buck? How are you saying this is not passing the buck? We're here saying, well, we'll have the brightest. They haven't even pulled the pieces out of the water. Can y'all explain to me What is this all about? How are you not passing the buck? Oh, it's because we didn't hire the right people. And people say, let's not make this shit political. Why isn't that political when immediately there's a tragedy and they bring this, DEI? Can y'all help me understand this? Let me know in the chat. There's something really off about this. Let's not pass the buck. Finish your investigation, come back to your press conference and tell us what the fuck happened. That's it.
To Washington, D.C. is we want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control. And we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, on DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened. And we'll see. We're going to look into that. We're going to see. But certainly for an air traffic controller, we want the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest. We want somebody that's psychologically superior. And that's what we're going to have. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
President, you mentioned at the top of the briefing that there were several Russian nationals on the flight.
Yes.
Will the U.S. government be willing to facilitate the transfer of their remains, considering the fact there is no direct air travel between the two countries?
We've already been in contact with Russia, and the answer is yes, we will facilitate. Yes. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. The situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is getting worse, even though President John Lorenzo has been mediating the conflict between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo because he wants to bring peace and stability. The situation is really bad right now. I want to hear from Ms. President if you have any plan in the future to bring peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
You're asking me a question about Rwanda, and it is a very serious problem. I agree, but I don't think it's appropriate right now to talk about it. But it is a very serious problem.
Even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control, and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter.
You know what? I blame the person that did the orange tan. Okay. Are they also going to say that was DEI too? Help me understand. No, fuck that. This is ridiculous. You cannot pass the buck at this point. You've taken office, take office. Okay. Stop passing the buck.
We're giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you. Please.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for being here. Based on your analysis so far, do you have a sense of who is at fault? If it was the plane, the helicopter, air traffic control, and can you assure people that it is safe to fly in and out of D.C.?
Well, I've given you the analysis, and the analysis was it was based on vision.
Oh my God.
You had a lot of people that saw what was happening. You had some people that knew what was happening. There was some warnings, but the warnings were given very, very late. Those warnings were given very late. It was almost as they were given a few seconds later, there was the crash. It should have been brought up earlier. But the people in the helicopter should have seen where they were going. I can't imagine people with 20/20 vision not seeing what's happening up there. Again, they shouldn't have been at the same height. You're going in reverse directions or sideways directions. Obviously, you want to be at different heights. I see it all the time when I'm flying. You have planes going in the opposite. They're always lower. We're higher. So if somehow there's a screw up, there's not going to be a tragedy. It'll be close, but there's never going to be a tragedy if you're at a different elevation. For whatever reason, they were at the same elevation. And also from the American Airlines Center, he's along the track that every plane is along. You say, what was a helicopter doing in that track? It's very sad. But visually, somebody should have been able to see and taken that helicopter out of play, and they should have been at a different height.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned the Russians that were on board that plane. What other nationalities were on board that passengers?
There were a couple of others. We're going to be announcing it in about an hour. We have some very specific information. We're calling the countries. We've spoken to most of them, but there were some other countries represented.
Spoken to President Putin?
I have not, no. Not about this.
On your executive order, you've already issued an executive order you say will restore aviation safety.
Right.
This crash happened after that. Was the executive order successful, and what more needs to change to keep people safe?
Well, you know, we issued it 3 days ago, and we're in the process of making those changes. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. Actually, my original order should have never been changed, and I think maybe you wouldn't have had this problem. Maybe. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. We see like everyday life that's very often those diversity hires cause sometimes issues, as you just mentioned. So what plan do you have? Are we going to see some fire? Are you going to fire some of those diversity hire in the federal government? What plan do you have?
I would say the answer is yes. If we find that people aren't mentally competent, you see the language. The language is put out by them. And if you see that, I'm not going to bore you by reading it again, but these are not people that should be doing this particular job. They'd be very good for certain jobs, but not people that should be doing this particular job.
President, you have. Let me stop right here. And let me be very clear. I don't care who y'all voted for. Okay, whether you voted for this man or the other, whatever. Okay, it does not matter to me. What is really bothersome, the biggest red flag that we could take from this right now is the simple fact that you cannot. The buck stops here. You cannot pass blame and to assume. So are we gonna? So if the person that was in the aviation, if they happen to be trans, is that going to be their fault too? Let me know. Are we going to say that, well, they're trans, therefore they're not intelligent? Is that what the narrative is going to be now? What if they're Mexican? Help me understand. This shit right here needs to stop. And y'all, I don't care if you voted for this man or not, but you got to hold this man accountable because you can't allow that. So every tragedy that happens, the California fires, oh, it was this. This is why these fires happen. Get the fuck out of here. What about when COVID broke? Are we going to blame him too? We didn't blame him. We said, well, fuck, we got to figure it out. Are y'all forgetting that piece? Stop.
Computerized systems. There are certain companies that do a very good job. They didn't use those companies. They use companies that should not have been doing it. No, I think it's very important to understand that for some jobs, and not only this, but air traffic controllers, they have to be at the highest level of genius. Okay.
I want to ask you about the ice skaters in a moment because the U.S. Ice Skating Committee was affected. But first, if I can, the cited FAA text that you read is real. But the implication that this policy is newer, that it stems from efforts that began under President Biden or the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is demonstrably false. It's been on the FAA's website. That, you? No, it's on the website, the FAA's website. It was there in 2013. It was there for the entirety.
What I read.
It was there for the entirety of your administration too. So my question is, why didn't you change the policy during your first administration?
I did change it. I changed the Obama policy, and we had a very good policy. And then Biden came in, and he changed it. And then when I came in 3 days ago, I signed a new order, bringing it to the highest level of intelligence. Okay.
It's on the website.
Please. Quiet.
Welcome back to the. I'm sorry. You mentioned that a vision was probably the problem that was at issue in this crash. There's been some reports that one of the pilots in the helicopter may have been using night vision equipment. Was there any?
I heard that. We don't know. We're going to know that pretty soon. It may change your view plane if you do have the night vision. So it's very possible that could have happened. That would be maybe a reason why you wouldn't actually see as well as on a clear night. You can see sometimes better without it. I have a couple of more.
Mr.
President, is it helpful to have your Secretary of Transportation confirmed, and does this intensify your interest in getting other nominees confirmed quickly?
Go to what?
Is it helpful to have your Secretary of Transportation confirmed, and does this intensify your interest in getting other nominees confirmed quickly as well?
Well, sure, we want fast confirmations, and the Democrats, as you know, are doing everything they can to delay them. They've taken too long. We're struggling to get very good people that everybody knows are going to be confirmed, but we're struggling to get them out faster. We want them out faster. It's a good question, actually. We've been pushing Sean. Everyone knows Sean for a long time. He got many, many Democrat votes, but they want to take as long as they can. They ask questions like some of the questions that Peter would ask that were totally irrelevant and not very good questions, but they want to just keep it going. They want to keep it going as long as possible. I was very honored, actually, that you got so many Democrat votes. That was really good. It was really good.
When I try to meet with the families, and second question, is it your impression that military training that was done during that time?
The what?
The training that the helicopter was involved in. Is it anything you can tell us about?
You don't know. These are the things that will come up with the investigation. You don't know, but the helicopter obviously was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and a tragedy occurred. Please.
I've got a question about the.
No, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've been critical of the current regulations, and you've called for big reforms at FAA. I'm curious, sir.
I made the reforms, actually.
What is your message?
3 days ago, I made them.
Yes, sir. What is your message then to the American public in the weeks and months ahead? Should they feel hesitant to fly? And if you could clarify perhaps something that the Defense Secretary said when he said that this helicopter was on a continuity of government mission?
I don't know what that refers to, but they were practicing. They do that. They call it practicing, and they were. And that's something that should be done. It's only continuity in the sense that we want to have very good people, and that has to be in continuity, and that's what they refer to. But it was basically practice, and it was a practice that worked out very, very badly. Okay.
On his question, the first question. Should people be hesitant to fly right now?
No, not at all. I've not hesitated to fly. This is something that it's been many years that something like this has happened. And the collision is just something that we don't expect ever to happen again. We are going to have the highest level people. We've already hired some of the people that you've already hired for that position long before we knew about this. I mean, long before. From the time I came in, we started going out and getting the best people, because I said it's not appropriate what they're doing. I think it's a tremendous mistake. You know, they like to do things and they like to take them too far, and this is sometimes what ends up happening. Now, with that, I'm not blaming the controller. I'm saying there are things that you could question, like the height of the helicopter, the height of the plane being at the same level and going in opposite directions. It's not a positive. But no, we're already hiring people. No, flying is very safe. We have the safest flying anywhere in the world. And real tragedy. The massive search and rescue mission was underway throughout the night, leveraging every asset.
Wait, why did it cut off? It cut off, y'all. And Brandon, you're right. Using this to shoe in horn DEI and attack other parties was terrible. Using this tragedy. You know what he should have done? Guys, this tragedy happened. Horrible. Here are the details. Moving forward, this is what's going to happen. We're going to address it. We're going to figure it out. Let the investigation show what it needs to show. That's what you do, okay? But no, instead, he uses this to then what? Oh, well, it's this person's fault. It's that fault. It was horrible. There's no reason why this should have happened. It should have been. It's the same thing he did with the Cali fires. It's the same thing, y'all. No difference. So are we always going to blame the Democrats? Is that what this is going to look like moving forward? Shit on the Democrats, no matter what? Is that what this is?
On the flight. For the family members back in Wichita, Kansas, here in Washington, D.C., and throughout the United States and in Russia, we have a Russia contingent of very talented people. Unfortunately, we're on that plane. Very, very, very sorry about that. Whose loved ones were aboard the passenger jet. we can only begin to imagine the agony that you're all feeling. Nothing worse. On behalf of the First Lady, myself, and 340 million Americans, our hearts are shattered alongside yours, and our prayers are with you now and in the days to come. We'll be working very, very diligently in the days to come. We're here for you to wipe away the tears and to offer you our devotion, our love, and our support. There's great support. In moments like this, the differences between Americans fade to nothing compared to the bonds of affection and loyalty that unite us all, both as Americans and even as nations. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. That icy Potomac, it was a cold, cold night, cold water. We're all overcome with the grief for many who have so tragically perished, will no longer be with us. Together we take solace in the knowledge that their journey ended not in the cold waters of the Potomac, but in the warm embrace of a loving God. We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years, I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they...
Yes, it's playing on a loop. So it was live, and then it went back to the loop.
Disaster occurred, and will ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, his second day on the job when that happened. It's a rough one.
Anyway, so again, he blames a lot of people, and it was all DEI, excuse me. And there is another press conference that will be happening here. Is it at 12:45? We're going to have to keep an eye out for that one. It has not started. Hold up, y'all. There's something else happening here.
Our community is uniting as one Wichita, one Kansas, and one American community. Today, we want to have a prayer that will give comfort to those who still have uncertainty, difficulty, and need words of wisdom from our faith leaders. In memory of those who have lost their lives, in honor of the families that are grieving, I'm asking that we come together as Wichitans, as Kansans, and as Americans. I would like to ask Bishop Kimmy to please start our prayer.
Ooh.
Let us pray. In times of crisis and tragedy, we turn to you, O God, for strength, consolation, and comfort. Hear our ardent and humble prayers, mighty God, that come from our community, upon which has been visited this disaster and the loss of many lives. We pray for the consolation that only you can give to those who are mourning the sudden death of their loved ones in this tragic moment. We pray for those who are tasked with the recovery mission, for their safety in times of peril, and for their strength that they need to perform their important service.
Oh, man.
Restore the peace of our fair city and community, and help us to comfort each other with the assurances of our faith. We make this prayer in the name of our triune God, you who are Father of us all, the creator of life. You who are the Son who lived among us to show us the way to salvation, and you who are Holy Spirit, filling our hearts each moment, but especially in moments such as this, with compassion and divine strength. You who are one God, who lives and reigns now and forever. Amen.
Okay. I'm going to stop this right here. Give me 1 second, guys. I just wanted him to let finish the prayer and stuff like that. Give me 1 sec. And it's not, like I said, respectfully, I'm not trying to make this political. It bothers me that they have made this political. Chrissy says, come on, Rabbit, let the president talk. Chrissy, the president was already talking. I came in late. That's why I was playing it the way that I was. So if you missed it, I apologize. I had to mute it every once in a while. And I'm having a reaction. Guys, whether it's whoever the hell is in office, I don't care. It's just that this is not the way you handle a situation like that. You just don't. To me, like I said, I'm astounded that we know this is tragic, and then we take this opportunity to then blame a bunch of folks. And thank you so much, Brandon, for saying this. DEI was established in 1964, so it's not new or a hot fuss or anything for those that are not aware. That's why I'm not understanding why somehow that has been the central focus of this. Now, it was the central focus of the fires in California, right? So moving forward, are we going to blame DEI or the Democrats or somebody else over situations like this? Or are we going to allow the investigation to happen and have a good, solid investigation before passing the buck? That's the piece that I don't like. I don't appreciate that whatsoever. Because if that's the case, then what? Every tragedy? Thank you. And please note this. We are allowed, okay? I am allowed just as much as you're allowed. I have criticized Biden, okay? I have criticized a lot of people, all right? Because guess what? They deserve to get criticized. Y'all criticize. It's our right, okay? It's our right. It's my right not to be a fan of these people. They don't need my fanship for them. They need to do their work. They need to do their job and not pass the buck. That's the thing that I'm talking about. This by far was the worst thing, in my opinion, that has happened. To give a speech about, our hearts and our thoughts and prayers are with them. But let's use this opportunity to shit on the other side yet again. When are we going to stop doing that and actually roll up our sleeves and say, hey, we got some work to do. Let's figure this out. What does the investigation say? Let me know. Thank you. Criticize all parties. All of them. All of them. They deserve it. I'm just saying. I criticize Biden all the time. When the Maui fires happened, that was another point of contention for me. There's a lot to criticize here, guys. It's okay. I'm not picking. Vote whatever you voted for. But this right here was handled poorly.
With regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity. So I had to say that it's terrible. Then it's a group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent. But now we mourn and we pray, and would like to ask all Americans to join me in a moment of silence as we ask God to watch over those who have lost their lives and bring comfort to the loved ones. And I just want to say God bless everyone in this room. This has been a terrible, very short period of time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So,
and that's my point. Angel, thank you for saying this. He should have waited until after the investigation. That's it. He should have waited until after the investigation instead of pointing blame. And now it's the time, because it really is the time for the families. That's the part that I don't appreciate. Like I said, it don't matter. If Biden had done the same, you would have seen me say some shit too. Like, this is fucked up. Period.
They've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, he had a helicopter that was at the same height obviously, when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, "Do you see?" He was talking about, "Do you see him?" But there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also he said, "Follow him in," and then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place. Well, you follow him in, that means like everything's fine. Follow him in. You had a pilot problem from the standpoint of the helicopter. I mean, because it was visual. It was a very clear night. It was cold but clear, and clear as you could be.
Now let me stop right here. Because what I did hear, I hear you, Billy. Now I know what he says, and I get it. And I think for me, it's like I've heard enough to know that like we're gonna keep doing this over and over, and that is hurtful to me to hear. I don't want us to keep blaming, but I want us to do something. You know what I mean? And that's one thing, working in government for 10 years is government does very well at blaming all kinds of factors on different things, but we got to fix the situation, or we got to investigate it, right? Or nip it. That's what we're supposed to do. Hold these people accountable, because at the end of the day, they work for us. They work for us, right? Where does the buck stop? It's your leadership. It doesn't, you don't get to say, well, this is what I did when I was here, then this changed. Okay, well, all right then. Let's get it together. Moment of silence. Did that even happen in this press conference? No. It became an opportunity for them to promote something else. That's what I don't appreciate. I just don't. And that's just me as an outsider looking in, and I'm allowed to criticize that, y'all. I'm allowed, and y'all are allowed to criticize it as well, okay? Now, I want to go over to some of these articles that are happening. The American Airlines plane, Army helicopter collide outside of the Reagan National Airport near Washington. Chico, you had said before that there were incidences like this where they were flying a little too close to each other. And that's the piece that I guess, how does a helicopter collide with the jet? Because I always assume that they always kind of like there's a graph when you fly, and you could tell when somebody's a little too close to your radar. A jet plane, I wouldn't expect to be able to move so quick. A helicopter, I would. And a Black Hawk. And it sounds like some of you guys in the chat were saying, hey, they were doing training or something to that effect. What happened here? What happened here? What led to this? I just didn't. Yeah, like air traffic control. So I heard that they were doing some level of training and whatnot. But I wonder about this. You said, yes, we have tech. How does this happen? How does this happen? Don't we have enough technology for this not to happen? And was it the Black Hawk helicopter that maybe they discounted, they didn't understand? Right. Were they training and they didn't take the measures? They didn't review? What happened? What allowed them to go this route? They were in training. But I don't get it. Because, yeah, like commercial airlines, a jet, these like United Airlines, American Airlines, they have very tight schedules, right? I'm just saying, if a flight is going from Denver to, I don't know, Phoenix, okay? They have measured and they know what is going where. It sounds to me that the people that shouldn't have been up there was the Black Hawk. That the Black Hawk shouldn't have been in that airspace whatsoever. That the Black Hawk shouldn't have been there. So why did the military allow this to happen? Like was there a fall in communication? What happened? I have a lot of questions about this because it's not making sense. Like I just, is it just me who feels that way? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm feeling better, love. Shout out to you. It's the fact that they did not they didn't contact air control. But don't they have their own designated like training area? What made them go there? Sometimes technology is inefficient. Okay. just something don't seem right, y'all. It just really. I have a lot of questions about it, and even then, let me see if I can go to a live feed right now so we can pull. Just have a lot of questions. It just don't make sense whatsoever. I mean, they're pulling. Y'all can see this. They're pulling everything. They're probably investigating at this point. I gotta blow my nose, y'all. Give me a second.
Yeah. Well, earlier I was moving around. That's the shock.
Yeah.
That.
And I was also just
yeah.
trying to orient myself because I'm like,
yeah.
They're pulling the material and stuff. Well, surely the helicopter should have been able to see the jet craft a lot easier and moved around, right, Rena? They're supposed to be there. They do exercises. I'm legit wondering, wouldn't there be any open communication between aircraft? That's what I'm saying. Like, I can understand if the communication is from like, well, anybody that's flying up there, you should have. You said ATC said the chopper. Did you see the jet? Then the chopper flew into it. The chopper flew into it. ATC informed the plane to land on a shorter runway. ATC asked the helicopter pilot if he had eyes on the plane. No reply. Told the helicopter pilot to hold back. Seconds later, the helicopter crashed. ATC informed the plane to the air traffic control, informed the plane to land on a shorter runway. If these jet planes, okay, or whatever, like these commercial ones, they have a specific schedule. And now they're having to make an emergency landing or a shorter landing or whatever to appease to the army. Like that, my friend, sounds just like crazy, you know? Especially if they're flying these helicopters to train. I think people got their info confused. That was another jet that people that asked the ATC if they saw that. Interesting. The man that flew the Black Hawk helicopters for decades said it was very, very dark, but a person with night vision goggles was supposed to look out. Wow. This sounds just crazy, y'all. Like, honestly. There's so much misinformation going around. Well, I mean, the survivors part was one. Could someone have been under the influence and training at the same time? Aircraft can go sideways while going forward, while a helicopter can go any direction. So it's literally cannot be the jet's fault. I don't think it's the jet's fault whatsoever, Rena. Like, is this what I'm saying is that they're passing the buck. They're going to pass the buck to the jet too. Where it's like, wait a minute, how? If anything, it's the military's fault. Like, I would have expected the military to have had more technology to have said, hey, we're not going to be, we're going to be careful. We're not going to be flying on this area, or this is the schedule for, you know, United or American Airlines, whatever it may be. Like, what is going on? Hold up, y'all. This is
11 o'clock. Then we go after midnight. The rain is just starting. Wherever you're seeing the yellow shade, that's that heavier rainfall moving through around 11:30 tomorrow, and then it will continue.
Like, I don't know what to make of. It's just weird. I'm gonna say that. That's all I'm gonna say. We all need to take a breath and step back and let the F. That's what I'm saying. V, thank you for saying this. We don't know what happened, right? Because we don't. And to assume, like, you know, the president did and other people in position, to assume that it was, this is the cost and this is what it was, is really concerning to me. That it's like, we're really going there. They haven't finished the investigation, and then that lends itself for false information too. They're going to look into the people that were flying the Black Hawk and all this other stuff. They're going to see that. Hold up, y'all.
Helicopter collided in midair.
The water that we're operating in is about.
Hold up.
Overnight, what's expected to be the deadliest commercial plane crash in the U.S. in at least 15 years happening over the nation's capital.
Did you see that?
Just after 8:45 Wednesday evening, an explosion lighting up the night sky in Washington as a passenger jet and military helicopter collided in midair.
The water that we're operating in is about 8 feet deep. There is wind. There is pieces of ice out there. So it's just dangerous and hard to work in.
The moment of the crash captured on an EarthCam live stream at the Kennedy Center. American Airlines Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas, with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board, was preparing to land at Reagan National Airport. While approaching the runway, Metropolitan Police receiving multiple calls of the aircraft crashing into an Army Black Hawk helicopter. Officials say there were 3 Army soldiers on board, but no senior officials. The explosion sending what was left of both aircraft plunging into the Potomac River.
I have no viable survivors at this point.
About 300 first responders racing to the scene, divers desperately searching for any survivors. The water temperature barely above freezing, a life-threatening 36 degrees, with the river only just starting to thaw after being frozen over for weeks.
The conditions out there are extremely rough
Oh
for
my
the
goodness.
responders. It's cold, wind is hard out on the river. So they're out there working.
Air traffic control shutting down operations until at least Thursday morning.
Delta 32, sorry. I don't know if you caught earlier what happened, but there was a collision on the approach into 33. We're going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future.
Nearby residents witnessing the horror.
When we went to the roof, it was insanity.
Oh my
Police
God.
trucks, ambulances, command vehicles. This was something like I've never seen.
Family and friends gathering at the airport overnight, waiting for news.
We're going to know people who are on this flight, know their family members, know somebody. So this is a very personal circumstance as well as an official response.
Officials in Kansas say they believe family members of victims were also arriving at the airport in Wichita.
We also encourage them to stay home and stay in contact with the airline, and they'll be getting an official word directly as well.
And U.S. figure skating confirming several athletes, coaches, and family members were on the plane.
Oh my
returning
goodness.
home from the National Development Camp, saying in a statement, "We are devastated by this unspeakable tragedy and hold the victims' families closely in our hearts."
Wow. I mean, this whole situation
on your side at 6 a.m.
is just so freaking sad in general. Yeah, the poor families. Thank you, Belinda, for telling people to hit that like button, please, and thank you. Give I know, but I've been done piss people off. Listen, that's all I'm saying, y'all. Like I said, I do not care who you guys vote for. That's not what this is about. And it drives me crazy, this passing the buck, because I don't think we should accept that, as a community, as a society, or anything. Like, don't accept these leaders passing the buck. I don't care if you voted for the leader. If anything, you should be able to hold the leader accountable to the things that they say. When did it become wrong for us to do that? I don't get it. It's okay to just say, like, listen, that's great that you're doing this. However, is the investigation even over? No, it's not. It's okay to say, well, maybe we need to find out what happened exactly. Maybe there was a miscommunication. Maybe they didn't even see. Could it have been a horrific accident? Potentially. But we have a lot of questions. Okay? We need more evidence before we put blames on people we don't even know. I don't even know half of the people that they're blaming. And we're saying that it's this and that and the other. Stop. It concerns me that people just pass the buck that way. That's it. All right. And I'm sorry if it's your favorite politician. I don't care whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever the hell it was. We need to be able to hold these. I've held mine accountable. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Okay. Thank you. Exactly. We don't even know. And we're rushing into conclusions. That's the part that really bothers me. Thank you. They do. They do. Exactly. I say we ask more questions, if anything. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of like miscommunication or maybe even a lot of misinformation because we don't know. Now, hold up. Let me shout out some folks that I missed. Rhiannon, thank you so much for the $2. Did the 4 people pass away after being recovered? Rhiannon, I don't even know because they said that they recovered 4 people and then they kind of stopped right there. Like, turns out that it wasn't 4 people. It's a lot of questions that we have. That I have about that. But you're right. Like, I wonder about this. Thank you so much. Is it Al or AI? Thank you for becoming a member. Shout out to you, love. Thank you. Thank you. Dizzy, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. Y'all put some hearts in the chat if you've been blessed. Thank you. Thank you. Constance June became a member. Thank you, guys. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for supporting my channel. I don't think anybody was recovered alive, but there was based on what the Daily Mail reported is that there were 4 people that survived, and that's not the case at all. At all. Right? Too much there's a lot of misinformation. Maybe there's something more that we can do to kind of like help with that because it's just a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Who was on the plane? They said that it was it figure skaters? If I heard that correctly, I'd have to go back. It was 64 total, Melissa. Let the investigation go on. That's what I'm talking about, Heather. Let the investigation go on, and then we'll go from there. Well, here's the deal, James. Where did they hear this? Did they hear it from like what's the word? From other communication sources and whatnot? Maybe that's what it was. Where did they hear this from? Figure skaters coming back from completion. Yes, and clinics in which that's what I thought. It was like figure skaters, right? Can you imagine having a favorite politician? Nobody. I have no favorite politicians. I don't. I vote, but I don't have a favorite politician because even the ones that I vote for are not my favorite. So, and that's the reality of it. Like, you have to assess what things look like, but it just makes me a little sad that we have to do better than passing the buck. I just don't like that passing the buck shit. And that's what I'm noticing, that we're all passing the buck, whether it's a fire, this, or something else. And it's always going to be that. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Don't let these people pass the buck. No, no. I don't think so. Really? Not Tanya Harding. I'm sure Tanya Harding is fine. Gotcha, Heather. So 4 recovered, assuming that they were alive. Maybe that's what it is. Okay. See, I didn't know this. Interesting. Even in the UK, we pick the best of the bad bunches. This sucks. We need less government, not more, ever. Not a good day for the new Secretary of Department of Transportation, right? I mean, his job started. People don't want the responsibility, just the prestige and the name recognition, period. Don't we all, though, Rando girl? Don't we all? Don't we all want, like, we don't want to do the work. We just want the recognition. But, lovey cats, right? Don't all politicians, it don't matter who you vote for, they always pass the buck. No matter what. It is what it is. It's disrespectful for the families. All the time. Canada's got some bogus shit going on in our politics too. Well, I'm kind of wondering what the report's going to look like and what it's going to like. Even with the passing the buck and blaming it on DEI, are we going to say if there is an investigation and it has nothing to do with DEI, what are people going to say now? Who are they going to blame? I have a lot of questions. It seems a bit provoked to me. This is just my opinion as an outsider, and I'll wait for the investigations to happen. But it seems to me that, was this on purpose? Was this a distract? Like, what happened here? It is not the first time where something like this happens. So I'm kind of wondering about it, but I'll let those investigators do their work before I conclude anything. But yeah. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go because I gotta go tend to baby bunny. Y'all are amazing. It seems preventable. That's for sure. That's for sure. That's what it seems like to me. But listen, this is not a political channel. Y'all don't have to agree with me. All I tell you is that if you vote for whatever asshole you vote for, just make sure that y'all hold him accountable for the things that he says and he does, regardless if it's your favorite politician. Hold the assholes accountable because they make enough money and they work for us. You work for me. Okay? And for everybody here. Let's hold these assholes accountable. That's how I see it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hit the like button, please and thank you. Y'all have a great day. Listen, there's going to be a press conference, so I'm going to see about going live on it. We'll see how it happens. But I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys. Bye, bye, bye.